The elevator's soft chime pierced the silence of the 47th floor of the Wellington Grand Hotel. Lucas Alexander Martin stepped out, his Italian leather shoes making no sound on the plush carpet. It was past midnight, and exhaustion weighed heavily on his broad shoulders, though nothing in his impeccable appearance betrayed it. His custom-made charcoal suit remained unwrinkled despite the 16-hour workday, his dark brown hair still perfectly styled. He hadn't planned to return to the hotel tonight. His temporary residence while his penthouse underwent renovations was supposed to be just that, temporary. But after the disaster of the Beijing conference call, he needed his laptop, which he'd accidentally left in the suite that morning. Tomorrow's board meeting couldn't wait. Lucas pulled out his keycard, his fingers automatically adjusting his platinum cufflinks, a habit he'd developed over years of board meetings and million-dollar negotiations. The corridor stretched before him, empty and silent, its elegant sconces casting a warm glow that did little to soften the edges of his fatigue. Room 4701, his temporary home for the past 2 weeks. He slid the keycard into the slot, watching the light turn green with a quiet click. But as he pushed the door open, something felt off. The suite wasn't as dark as it should have been. A soft nightlight glowed from the corner of the bedroom, casting dancing shadows on the walls. His body tensed, years of business instincts kicking in. Someone was in his room. The sound reached him first. Soft, rhythmic breathing. Then as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw them. 2 small forms curled up on his king-sized bed, golden hair catching the nightlight's glow. Children. There were children sleeping in his bed. For a moment, Lucas stood frozen, his mind refusing to process the scene before him. They couldn't be more than 2 or 3 years old, identical twins from the look of it, their cherubic faces peaceful in sleep. One clutched a worn, stuffed animal, while the other had a tiny hand stretched out toward their sibling. The initial shock gave way to anger, hot and sharp. This was a 5-star hotel, not a daycare center. His fingers instinctively moved to his phone, ready to call security, when he noticed the small backpack by the bed. Disney princesses smiled up at him from its worn surface, and beside it lay a child's shoe, barely bigger than his palm. His jaw clenched as he reached for the room's phone. This was unacceptable. Someone had left 2 toddlers alone in his suite. The liability issues alone made his head spin, not to mention the complete breach of security protocols. But before he could dial, the door clicked open behind him. "Oh God, no." The whispered words came from a woman who stood in the doorway, her face draining of color as their eyes met. She was small, barely reaching his shoulder, with wavy blonde hair escaping from a messy bun. The hotel's housekeeping uniform hung loose on her frame, and dark circles shadowed her green eyes, which now widened in absolute terror. "Mr. Martin, I can explain," she stammered, taking a step forward. Her name tag caught the light. Ana Silva. "Explain?" His voice was low, controlled, but sharp enough to cut glass. "Explain why there are children unsupervised in my suite. Do you have any idea?" "Please," she interrupted, her voice trembling but determined. "Please lower your voice. They haven't slept properly in days." Her eyes darted to the sleeping twins, and something in her expression made Lucas pause. Raw desperation mingled with fierce protectiveness. She moved closer, wringing her hands. "I was evicted this morning. No warning. The landlord sold the building and we—" Her voice cracked. "I have nowhere else to take them. I knew you weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow. I just needed a few hours until my shift ended to figure something out." Lucas felt his anger warring with something else, an emotion he couldn't quite name. The woman before him stood straight, despite her obvious exhaustion. Her chin lifted slightly even as tears threatened to spill from her eyes. There was a quiet dignity in her stance that seemed at odds with her circumstances. "They're yours," he said. It wasn't a question. Anna nodded, swallowing hard. "Sophia and Samuel, they're everything I have." She glanced at the sleeping children, again, and her expression softened in a way that made something in Lucas's chest tighten unexpectedly. "I know I could lose my job for this, I know it's wrong, but when you're a mother..." She trailed off, squaring her shoulders. I'll accept whatever consequences there are. Just, please let me wake them gently. Lucas found himself staring at her, really seeing her for the first time. The slight tremor in her hands betrayed her exhaustion, but there was steel in her spine. She reminded him of someone from long ago, someone whose memory he'd carefully locked away. One of the twins stirred, the little boy with the stuffed animal. He made a small sound in his sleep, and Anna's entire body seemed to gravitate toward him instinctively. Lucas watched as she bit her lower lip, a gesture of worry that seemed well worn. How long? He heard himself ask, surprising them both. I'm sorry? How long until you find a new place? Anna's eyes met his, confusion, replacing fear for a moment. I have some savings, not much. Maybe a week at a motel, but with the security deposit for a new apartment. She shook her head slightly. I'll figure something out. I always do. Lucas felt the familiar urge to take control of the situation, to fix it with the ruthless efficiency that had built his empire. But something stopped him. Perhaps the way Anna stood protectively between him and her children, or maybe the echo of an old memory he couldn't quite suppress. He adjusted his cufflinks again, a habit that helped him think. There's a suite on the 45th floor. It's been empty for renovation planning, but it's fully furnished. The words came out before he could analyze them too carefully. You can use it. For now. Anna's eyes widened in disbelief. Mr. Martin, I couldn't. You can. He cut her off, his tone brooking no argument. And you will, because the alternative is me calling security, and neither of us wants that. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying over the screen. I'm texting the night manager now. He'll bring you a keycard. Why? The question was barely a whisper, but it hung heavy in the air between them. Lucas looked at the sleeping twins, again, their peaceful faces stirring something he'd thought long buried. Because leaving children without a safe place to sleep isn't an option. He turned toward the door, needing to escape the sudden thickness in his throat. Have them moved within the hour. I need to work. He was nearly at the door when her voice stopped him. Thank you. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that made him pause. Most people wouldn't. I'm not most people, Miss Silva. He didn't turn around, couldn't bear to see the gratitude in her eyes. Don't make me regret this. As the door closed behind him, Lucas leaned against the corridor wall, loosening his tie slightly. What had he just done? This wasn't like him. He didn't get involved, didn't let emotions cloud his judgment. Yet something about Ana Silva and her twins had breached his carefully constructed walls. His phone buzzed, a confirmation from the night manager. Lucas straightened, adjusted his tie, and headed back to the elevator. He had a board meeting to prepare for, reports to review, an empire to run. He couldn't afford distractions. But as the elevator descended, he couldn't shake the image of Anna's fierce determination or the peaceful faces of her sleeping children. For the first time in years, Lucas Alexander Martin had acted on impulse rather than calculation. And somewhere, deep inside, past all his defenses, a long-frozen part of him stirred to life. Dawn crept over Manhattan's skyline as Anna sat cross-legged on the floor of Suite 4505, watching her twins sleep peacefully on the king-sized bed. The early morning light painted everything in soft gold, making the luxury suite seem almost dreamlike. She pressed her fingers against her temples, still struggling to process the events of the past few hours. Girl, you did what? Emily Rose Johnson's voice, though whispered, carried her characteristic blend of shock and amusement. She sat beside Anna, her voluminous curls caught in the morning light, her dark eyes wide with disbelief. I know. Anna groaned softly, tugging at a loose thread on her uniform. I could have been arrested, Em. Instead, She gestured vaguely at the opulent suite around them. Emily shook her head, her bracelets clicking softly as she gestured. Lucas Alexander Martin, the Ice King himself. Giving you a suite instead of calling security? She let out a low whistle. Either you've got guardian angels working overtime, or that man's got depths none of us knew about. Don't. Anna bit her lower lip, a nervous habit she couldn't shake. Don't make this into something it's not. He probably just didn't want the scandal of having a single mother and her kids thrown out of his hotel at midnight. Sophia stirred in her sleep, her tiny hand reaching out for her brother. Samuel, clutching his worn, stuffed elephant, scooted closer to his sister instinctively. The sight made Anna's heart clench with both love and worry. You need to eat something, Emily insisted, pulling a paper bag from her oversized purse. The smell of fresh bagels filled the air. Can't solve anything on an empty stomach. Anna accepted the bagel gratefully, realizing she couldn't remember her last proper meal. As she ate, Emily moved around the suite, her natural energy somewhat contained but still evident in her quick movements and expressive gestures. This place is bigger than my first apartment, Emily mused, peering into the marble bathroom. And that tub? Girl, you could swim laps in it. It's temporary, Anna reminded her, though her voice wavered slightly. Just until I can... A knock at the door made them both freeze. Anna's heart jumped to her throat as she scrambled to her feet, automatically smoothing her wrinkled uniform. Emily gave her a reassuring nod before slipping into the bathroom, leaving Anna to face whatever came next. Through the peephole, she saw Lucas Martin himself, as immaculate as if he'd stepped out of a business magazine cover. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the door. Mr. Martin. She hoped her voice sounded steadier than she felt. He stood in the doorway, his tall frame filling the space with an authority that seemed effortless. His blue eyes swept the room in a quick assessment before landing on her. Today's suit was navy, probably worth more than she made in months, and he wore it like armor. Ms. Silva? His voice was cool, professional. He adjusted his cufflinks, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as habitual. I trust the accommodations are satisfactory? Before Anna could respond, a small voice piped up from behind her. Mama? Sophia was sitting up in bed, her blonde hair a mess of tangles, her blue eyes bright with curiosity. Samuel stirred beside her, clutching his elephant tighter as he blinked at the stranger in the doorway. Something flickered across Lucas's face, so brief Anna almost missed it. His posture shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly softening. Anna turned toward her children, then back to Lucas, caught between worlds. Yes, the accommodations are more than satisfactory. I don't know how to thank you. There are matters we need to discuss, he interrupted, his tone businesslike but not unkind. My office 1 hour. The night manager will watch your children. Oh, I couldn't impose. It wasn't a request, Ms. Silva. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, Anna glimpsed something beneath the corporate facade, a hint of understanding, perhaps even compassion. 1 hour. He turned to leave, then paused. Without looking back, he added, They seem well rested. The door closed behind him before Anna could respond. She stood there, heart pounding, until Emily emerged from the bathroom, fanning herself, dramatically. Well, damn, Emily said, her eyebrows raised. The temperature in here dropped about 20 degrees when he walked in. But did you see how he looked at the twins? Please. Anna moved to the bed, gathering Sophia into her arms as Samuel crawled over for his morning cuddle. I can't read into things right now. I need to focus on finding a new apartment, keeping my job. Speaking of which, Emily interrupted, her expression turning serious. You need to change. Can't meet the CEO looking like you pulled an all-nighter in the trenches. Anna glanced down at her rumpled uniform, reality crashing back. I don't have anything else here. All our clothes are still... Good thing you have a fairy godmother who keeps an emergency outfit in her locker. Emily was already heading for the door, her natural energy filling the room. Give me 15 minutes. And honey? She paused, her face softening. Whatever happens in that office, remember you're stronger than you think. Left alone with her children, Anna took a deep breath. Sophia was already chattering about the pretty room, while Samuel pressed closer to her side, his small hand gripping her uniform. Mama sad? Samuel asked quietly, his blue eyes serious. No, baby. Anna kissed the top of his head, breathing in his familiar scent. Mama's just thinking. About the tall man? Sophia asked, putting her tiny hands on her hips in a gesture that usually made Anna smile. He looks like a prince from my books. Sophia Grace. Anna sighed, but couldn't help the small laugh that escaped. Trust her daughter to see fairy tales even in this situation. Emily returned with a simple but elegant black dress and a pair of low heels that miraculously fit well enough. As Anna changed, her friend worked minor miracles with a hairbrush and some makeup, turning exhaustion into something that could pass for professional composure. There, Emily said, stepping back to survey her work. Now you look like someone who belongs in the CEO's office. Anna stared at her reflection, barely recognizing herself. The woman in the mirror looked composed, almost confident. But inside, her stomach was doing flips. What if he's changed his mind? She whispered, voicing her deepest fear. What if? Then we figure it out, Emily cut her off firmly. Like we always do. But something tells me that's not what this meeting is about. She squeezed Anna's shoulders. That man could have had security throw you out last night. Instead, he gave you a sweet, trust your instincts, honey. The night manager, a kindly older man named Richard, arrived right on time. The twins, usually shy with strangers, seemed to sense their mother's acceptance of him and settled in for cartoons and breakfast. They'll be fine, Emily assured her, practically pushing her toward the door. Now go. Don't keep the Ice King waiting. As Anna walked toward the elevator, her borrowed heels clicking softly on the marble floor, she tried to gather her courage. The past 24 hours had shattered everything she thought she knew about her life, about what was possible. Eerie, elevator began its smooth ascent to the executive floor. Anna watched the numbers climb, each floor bringing her closer to whatever Lucas Alexander Martin had in store. She touched the simple silver necklace at her throat, a habit from childhood, and straightened her shoulders. Emily was right. She was stronger than she thought. She had to be for Sophia and Samuel. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same determination that had gotten her through everything else. The elevator chimed, doors opening to reveal a sleek corridor that screamed corporate power. Anna took a deep breath and stepped forward. It was time to discover exactly what kind of man Lucas Martin really was, and what price came with his unexpected kindness. Lucas stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, fingers drumming against his platinum watch as he stared out at the Manhattan skyline. Behind him, the spacious corner office reflected his philosophy. Clean lines, minimal decoration, everything serving a purpose, control, order, precision. So why had he acted so impulsively last night? The memory of those sleeping children in his suite still unsettled him. He reached up to adjust his tie, caught himself and forced his hand down. These nervous habits, the cufflink adjusting, the tie straightening, were tells he couldn't afford, especially not today. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Martin, Ms. Silva is here. Send her in. His voice was steady, betraying none of the uncertainty churning beneath his composed exterior. The door opened, and Lucas turned, ready to take control of the situation. But the sight of Anna Silva made him pause. Gone was the exhausted housekeeper in a rumpled uniform. The woman who entered his office wore a simple black dress that suggested quiet elegance, her blonde hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. Yet she still bit her lower lip nervously as she approached, reminding him that beneath this transformation, she remained the same desperate mother from last night. Please sit. He gestured to one of the leather chairs facing his desk, noting how she perched on the edge, back straight, hands folded in her lap, ready for flight. Lucas moved to his own chair, the leather creaking softly as he sat. For a moment, neither spoke. He found himself studying her face, the gentle curve of her cheekbones, the worry lines around her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide, the quiet determination in her expression. Your children, he began, watching her, tense at the mention of the twins. They're well taken care of. Yes. Her voice was soft but clear. Richard, the night manager, he's watching them. They seemed comfortable with him. Lucas nodded, pulling a folder from his desk drawer. I had my team do some research this morning. He opened the file, though he'd already memorized its contents. Anna Marie Silva, 28 years old, employed at the Wellington Grand for 3 years. Exemplary service record. No complaints. Graduated top of your class from hospitality management school, but dropped out of the advanced program 2 years ago. He looked up. When you found out you were pregnant. She flinched slightly but held his gaze. You've been thorough. I'm always thorough, Ms. Silva. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. What I couldn't find was any mention of the twins' father. The color drained from her face, but her chin lifted slightly. He's not in the picture. Hasn't been since I told him I was pregnant. And now? Now what? Would he make claims? Legal issues I should be aware of? Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed by a flash of something fiercer. Is that what this is about? You're worried about liability? I'm worried about making an informed decision. Lucas stood, needing to move, to think. He walked to the windows again, his reflection ghostly in the glass. The suite on the 45th floor is yours for the next month. Behind him he heard her sharp intake of breath. A month? Mr. Martin, I couldn't. You can, and you will. He turned to face her. Along with a position in our corporate hospitality training program. Full benefits, flexible hours, significantly better pay than your current position. He paused, watching emotions play across her face. You have the qualifications. You should have applied years ago. Anna stood slowly, her hands trembling slightly. Why are you doing this? It was the same question from last night, but now, weighted with more meaning. Lucas found himself walking toward her, stopping when only a few feet separated them. Up close, he could see the flecks of gold in her green eyes, the slight flush rising in her cheeks. Because I recognize potential being wasted, he said finally. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Because those children deserve stability, and you deserve a chance to provide it. And what do you want in return? Her voice was barely a whisper. Lucas felt something inside him crack just slightly. Contrary to what you might believe, Ms. Silva, not everything in life is a transaction. In my experience, Mr. Martin, everything has a price. She met his eyes steadily. And nothing hurts more than thinking you found kindness only to discover it's another loan you can't repay. The words hit him with unexpected force. He recognized the pain behind them, the same cynicism he'd built his own walls with. Without thinking, he reached out, his fingers almost brushing her arm before he caught himself. The offer stands, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. No strings, no hidden agenda, take it or don't, it's your choice. Anna wrapped her arms around herself, and for a moment Lucas saw her walls crack too. My children, they need stability, structure. She swallowed hard. I can't risk their hearts on kindness that might disappear tomorrow. I don't make offers lightly, Ms. Silva. He moved back to his desk, needing the physical distance. And I never go back on my word. Ask anyone in this building. She nodded slowly, then reached up to touch a simple silver necklace, a gesture he'd noticed earlier. May I think about it? You have until tomorrow morning. He picked up the folder, extending it toward her. Your complete offer package is in here, along with my personal contact information. If you need anything at all, you call, day or night. Their fingers brushed as she took the folder, and Lucas felt an unexpected jolt of awareness. Anna must have felt it too because she drew back quickly, clutching the folder to her chest like a shield. Thank you, she said softly. Not just for this, but for last night. For not calling security, for... She gestured vaguely. For seeing us as people, not problems. Lucas felt his chest tighten. If she only knew how her presence had disturbed his carefully ordered world, how those sleeping children had cracked defenses he'd spent years building. You should get back to your children, he said instead. Take the day off, read through the offer, make your decision. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Mr. Martin? Yes? You never answered my question. Not really. Why did you help us last night? Lucas stared at her, at this woman who somehow managed to look both vulnerable and strong, who challenged him even while accepting his help. For a moment he considered telling her the truth, about his own past, about the memories her situation had stirred, about the way her quiet dignity had broken through his defenses. Instead, he adjusted his cufflinks, falling back on habit. Sometimes, Ms. Silva, even I don't fully understand my own actions. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. After she left, Lucas remained standing in his office, staring at the door. His perfectly ordered world had shifted on its axis and he wasn't sure how to write it, or if he even wanted to. His phone buzzed. The board meeting in 10 minutes, right. He had an empire to run, decisions to make, power plays to navigate. This distraction would have to wait. But as he gathered his materials for the meeting, he found himself hoping she would accept the offer, and that realization unsettled him more than anything else. Anna sat cross-legged on the suite's plush carpet, the offer package spread before her like a map to an impossible future. Sophia and Samuel napped on the enormous bed, their afternoon siesta giving her a rare moment of quiet reflection. Outside, rain peppered the windows, turning Manhattan into a watercolor of grays and silvers. The salary figure made her head spin. It was more than triple what she currently made. The benefits package included full medical, dental, childcare assistance, and even tuition reimbursement. A career track that could lead to management positions. Everything she'd dreamed of before life had thrown her its cruel curveball. It's too perfect, she whispered, touching her silver necklace, her mother's last gift before passing away. Nothing this good comes without a catch. A soft knock at the door startled her. Emily stood in the doorway, having just finished her shift, her curls slightly frizzed from the humidity. One look at Anna's face, and she closed the door quietly behind her. Okay, spill, Emily said, settling beside her on the floor. What did the Ice King want? Her eyes fell on the paperwork. Holy, is that a corporate contract? Anna nodded, pushing the salary page toward her friend. Emily's eyes widened, and she let out a low whistle. Girl, with this kind of money, you could get that nice 2-bedroom in Brooklyn you've been eyeing. Emily flipped through the pages. Full benefits? Management track? This is... She paused, studying Anna's troubled expression. This is everything you've wanted. So why do you look like someone just gave you a ticking time bomb? Because nothing in my life has ever been this easy, Anna said, gathering the papers into a neat stack. Men like Lucas Martin don't just help people like me without wanting something in return. I learned that lesson the hard way with Daniel. The mention of the twins' father made Emily's expression darken. Lucas Martin is not Daniel Richardson, she said firmly. That worthless excuse for a human being. Mama? Samuel's sleepy voice interrupted them. He stood at the edge of the bed clutching his elephant, blue eyes heavy with sleep. Anna was on her feet immediately, gathering him into her arms. He snuggled against her neck, his familiar weight centering her. Sophia stirred too, sitting up, with her characteristic determined expression. I'm hungry, Sophia announced, hands on her hips in her signature pose that never failed to melt Anna's heart. Emily jumped up. Good thing Auntie M came prepared. She pulled out a paper bag from her oversized purse. Who wants chicken nuggets? Me. Sophia bounced on the bed while Samuel lifted his head with interest. As Emily set up their impromptu dinner on the suite's elegant dining table, Anna helped the twins wash their hands in the marble bathroom. She caught her reflection in the mirror, a mother in a borrowed dress trying to make impossible decisions. Mama, Samuel said softly, touching her cheek. Don't be sad. I'm not sad, baby. She kissed his forehead. Just thinking hard about something. About the tall man? Sophia piped, up from the doorway. He looks nice, like the princes in my stories. Sophia Grace. Anna sighed but couldn't help smiling. Her daughter's fascination with Lucas Martin would be amusing if it wasn't so complicated. Over chicken nuggets and apple slices, Emily watched the twins with unusual thoughtfulness. You know, she said finally, I've worked at the Wellington for 5 years. Seen all kinds of rich folks come through. Lucas Martin? He's different. Anna cut Samuel's nuggets into smaller pieces. Different how? He notices things. Last Christmas, he had maintenance fix the broken heater in our break room without anyone asking. Gave the night shift extra holiday pay because of the snowstorm. Emily leaned forward. The man's got walls higher than this building, but behind them, there's something real. Or maybe he's just good at appearing benevolent while calculating the benefits, Anna countered, but her voice lacked conviction. Mama, more juice, please. Sophia's request interrupted their conversation. As Anna poured apple juice into Sophia's princess cup, her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Ms. Silva, I hope the offer package meets your expectations. Remember, the choice is yours, but know this, I meant what I said, no strings, LM. Anna stared at the message, her heart doing an odd little flip. The timing was almost uncanny, as if he'd sensed her doubts. Is that him? Emily asked, reading her expression. Anna nodded, showing her the message. Emily's eyebrows rose. LM. Huh? Already on text terms with the CEO? It's not like that, Anna protested, but her cheeks warmed. She looked at her twins, Sophia chattering happily about her day, Samuel carefully arranging his nuggets in a perfect line before eating them. They deserved so much more than she could give them on her current salary. What if, she began slowly, what if I accept and it all falls apart? What if I'm reading this all wrong? The twins have been through enough changes. Emily reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Honey, look at me. You're one of the strongest people I know. You've raised these beautiful babies alone, worked full-time, never complained. Maybe, just maybe, the universe is finally cutting you a break. The universe doesn't give breaks, Anna said softly. People do, and people can change their minds. Some people can't be trusted, Emily agreed, glancing meaningfully at a photo of the twins on Anna's phone. But some people surprise you. Sometimes, the walls people build aren't to keep others out. They're to protect what's soft inside. Anna thought about Lucas in his office, the way he'd almost reached for her, the flash of something vulnerable in his eyes before his corporate mask slipped back into place. She thought about his immediate reaction to help rather than punish, about the careful way he'd asked about the twins. Sophia's voice broke through her thoughts. Mama, can we stay here forever? The bed is so big and soft. No, sweetie, Anna said automatically, then paused. Maybe not forever, but for a while. Maybe long enough to build something better. She picked up her phone, reading Lucas's message again. The choice is yours. When was the last time someone had given her a real choice with no manipulation, no hidden agenda? She said quietly. Will you help me draft a response? Emily's face broke into a wide smile. Finally. Girl, you had me worried you were going to let pride talk you out of the opportunity of a lifetime. As they worked on the message, Anna watched her twins finish their dinner. Sophia was telling Samuel an elaborate story about princesses and dragons, complete with dramatic hand gestures. Samuel listened intently, occasionally adding sound effects that made his sister beam with approval. They deserved stability. They deserved opportunities. And maybe, just maybe, they deserved to believe in a little magic, in the possibility that sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Anna looked down at the draft message on her phone. Mr. Martin, I would be honored to accept the position. Thank you for seeing potential where others might have only seen problems. Anna Silva. Her finger hovered over the send button. Outside, the rain had stopped and late afternoon sunlight broke through the clouds, casting long golden shadows across the room. It felt like a sign, like the universe holding its breath. Anna pressed send. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same strength that had gotten her this far. And maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have to face it alone. Lucas stood in his private gym on the top floor of the Wellington, punching the heavy bag with measured precision. Each strike helped clear his mind, the physical exertion burning away the tension of the day. Sweat darkened his gray workout shirt as he maintained the rhythm, jab, cross, hook. The city lights twinkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a reminder of the empire he'd built. His phone buzzed on the nearby bench. Normally, he'd ignore it during his workout, but something made him pause. Unwrapping his hands, he checked the message. Ana Silva's response lit up the screen. She'd accepted. Lucas realized he'd been holding his breath. Letting it out slowly, he read her message again, noting the graceful way she'd worded her acceptance. No groveling, no excessive thanks, just quiet dignity and professional courtesy. He grabbed a towel, wiping his face as he walked to the windows. Below, Manhattan pulsed with its usual evening energy. Somewhere down there in his hotel, Anna was probably putting her twins to bed, perhaps still wondering if she'd made the right choice. His finger hovered over the phone screen. Protocol dictated letting HR handle everything from here. Clean, professional, distance maintained. Instead, he found himself typing, "Good decision, Ms. Silva. Report to Jessica Chen in HR tomorrow at 9 a.m. The child care center on the 3rd floor will be expecting Sophia and Samuel." He hit send before he could second-guess himself, then immediately regretted the terseness of his response. But before he could consider a follow-up, his private elevator chimed. "Working late again, little brother?" Lucas turned to find his older brother, Michael Martin, striding into the gym. At 40, Michael was the more traditionally handsome of the two, with their father's broad shoulders and easy charm. As the CFO of Martin Enterprises, he handled the numbers while Lucas handled the vision, an arrangement that had worked well until recently. "Mike." Lucas nodded, instantly alert. His brother rarely made unannounced visits. "What brings you here?" Michael helped himself to a bottle of water from the mini-fridge. "Interesting rumors floating around the office today. Something about our CEO personally intervening in a housekeeping matter." He raised an eyebrow. "That's not like you, Luke." Lucas kept his expression neutral as he gathered his things. "If you're referring to Ms. Silva's promotion to the corporate training program, that was a business decision. We're always looking for qualified candidates. Qualified candidates don't usually come with 2 toddlers and a recent eviction notice." Michael's tone remained casual, but Lucas caught the underlying concern. "The board's already asking questions." "The board can direct their questions to me." Lucas's voice carried a warning edge. "They will. Tomorrow." Michael set down his water bottle. 9 a.m. sharp. "They've called an emergency meeting." Lucas stilled. "On whose authority?" "Davidson's." Michael named one of their most influential board members. "He's worried you're letting emotions cloud your judgment. Says it sets a dangerous precedent." "Emotions?" Lucas almost laughed. "Because I recognize talent being wasted? Because I made a decision that benefits both the employee and the company? Because you gave a suite to a housekeeper and her kids, then promoted her 12 hours later?" Michael stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Luke, I know what this is about. She reminds you of—" "Don't." Lucas cut him off sharply, an old pain flaring in his chest. "This has nothing to do with that. Doesn't it?" Michael's expression softened. "Look, I'm on your side. Always have been. But if you're going to face the board tomorrow, you need to be prepared. Davidson's been looking for any excuse to challenge your leadership since you blocked his casino project." Lucas pinched the bridge of his nose, feeling a headache building. "What's your point, Mike?" "My point is, you need to handle this carefully. The promotion's already done, fine, but distance yourself. Let HR handle everything. Don't give Davidson any more ammunition." The advice made perfect sense. It was exactly what Lucas would have told anyone else in his position. So why did it feel like surrender? His phone buzzed again. Another message from Anna. Thank you for everything. The twins and I won't let you down. Looking at those words, Lucas felt something shift inside him. A certainty he couldn't quite explain. I appreciate the warning, he told his brother, sliding the phone into his pocket. But I know what I'm doing. Michael studied him for a long moment. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you haven't been yourself since that night you found them in your suite. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Lucas echoed Anna's words from their morning meeting, surprising them both. Just be careful, Luke. Michael headed for the elevator. Davidson's not the only one who remembers what happened last time you tried to save someone. After his brother left, Lucas showered and changed into a fresh suit, his mind racing. The board meeting tomorrow would be challenging, but he'd faced worse. He'd built this company from the ground up, turned it into one of the most successful hospitality groups in the country. He knew how to handle people like Davidson. Still, as he rode the elevator down to his temporary suite, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had changed. The Lucas Martin of a week ago would have never gotten personally involved, would have never given a second thought to a housekeeper and her children, would have never. The elevator stopped on the 45th floor. Lucas stared at the button he'd pressed without thinking. Anna's floor. Even now, he could picture her there with her twins, perhaps reading them a bedtime story or singing softly as they drifted off to sleep. Get it together, he muttered, jabbing the button for his own floor. But as the elevator resumed its descent, his phone felt heavy in his pocket. One more message couldn't hurt. Something professional but encouraging. Something to let her know she'd made the right choice. That tomorrow would be. The elevator doors opened, revealing Richard, the night manager, looking flustered. Mr. Martin. Thank goodness. We have a situation. Lucas's spine stiffened. What kind of situation? There's a man in the lobby, sir. Says his name is Daniel Richardson. Richard shifted uncomfortably. He's demanding to see Ms. Silva and the children. Says he's their father. The temperature in the elevator seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lucas thought of Anna's face when he'd mentioned the twins' father, the fear she'd tried to hide. Is Ms. Silva aware? No, sir. He just arrived, and I came to find you first, given the circumstances. Lucas adjusted his cufflinks, a plan already forming. Good decision. Have security detain him discreetly. I'll handle this personally. As he strode toward the lobby, Lucas knew he was about to cross another line. The board would have a field day with this. Davidson would use it as proof that he'd lost his objectivity. But remembering Anna's quiet strength, her determination to give her children a better life, Lucas realized he didn't care. Some lines were worth crossing. The lobby doors opened, and he straightened his tie, ready to face whatever came next. After all, he was Lucas Alexander Martin, and nobody threatened his people, not even if they were only his people for less than 24 hours. The Wellington's elegant lobby had hosted presidents, royalty, and billionaires, but tonight it held something far more dangerous. A father with nothing to lose. Daniel Richardson paced near the marble fountain, his designer clothes and practiced, smile at odds with the barely contained rage in his eyes. Lucas assessed him from the private security feed before entering the lobby. Athletic build, expensive watch, perfectly styled brown hair, the kind of man who'd probably never heard the word no in his life. The kind of man who viewed people as possessions. Mr. Richardson. Lucas's voice cut through the lobby's hushed atmosphere. I understand you're looking for Ms. Silva. Daniel turned, his practiced smile widening. Ah, the famous Lucas Martin himself. I'm honored. He extended his hand, which Lucas deliberately ignored. I'm just here to see my children. Surely you understand. A father's rights and all that. Rights? Lucas kept his voice level, though his fingers itched to adjust his cufflinks. Interesting choice of words from a man who abandoned his pregnant girlfriend 2 years ago. The smile slipped slightly. You've been misinformed. Anna has a tendency to dramatize situations. I simply needed time to process. Now I'm ready to be part of my children's lives. Your timing is remarkable, Lucas said coldly. The same day Ms. Silva receives a significant promotion. Daniel's facade cracked further. So it's true. You've taken quite an interest in my family, haven't you, Mr. Martin? They're not your family. The words came out sharper than Lucas intended. You lost that right when you walked away. Did I? Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. And what right do you have, exactly? Playing savior to a desperate single mother? How noble. Tell me, what's your real interest in Anna? Lucas felt his control slipping. Images flashed through his mind. Anna's quiet dignity in his office, the twins sleeping peacefully in his suite. Sophia's tiny hands on her hips, Samuel clutching his elephant. Security, Lucas called quietly. Two men in suits materialized instantly. Please escort Mr. Richardson out. He's not welcome in any Martin Enterprises property. You can't do this. Daniel's charm vanished completely. Those are my children. I have rights. Rights you waived 2 years ago. Lucas moved closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. If you try to contact Ms. Silva or the children again, you'll find out exactly how much influence I have in this city. Am I clear? Something in his tone must have registered because Daniel took a step back. This isn't over, Martin. For your sake, it better be. Lucas watched as security escorted Daniel out, only allowing his shoulders to relax when the doors closed behind them. He pulled out his phone, firing off quick messages to his legal team and head of security. They needed to. Lucas? He turned to find Anna standing near the elevators, her face pale. She wore simple pajamas under a hotel robe, her feet in slippers looking so vulnerable it made his chest ache. How much did you hear? He asked quietly. Enough. She wrapped her arms around herself. Emily texted me that she saw him come in. The twins are still asleep. Richard's watching them. Her voice shook slightly. I can't believe he's here. After all this time. Without thinking, Lucas crossed to her, his hand hovering near her shoulder before dropping away. He's gone. He won't bother you again. You don't know Daniel. She touched her silver necklace, a nervous gesture he was beginning to recognize. When he wants something, then he'll have to go through me. The fierce protectiveness in his voice surprised them both. Anna looked up at him, really looked at him, and Lucas felt something shift in the air between them. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing all this? 1,000 answers ran through his mind. Because it's the right thing to do. Because your children deserve better. Because something about you breaks through every wall I've built. Instead, he said, let me show you something. He led her to the private elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. They rode in silence, Anna hugging herself tightly, Lucas fighting the urge to comfort her. The elevator opened directly into his private office, not the corporate one where they'd met that morning, but his personal sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, but Lucas guided her to a single framed photograph on his desk. My mother, he said softly, watching Anna study the image of a beautiful woman with his same blue eyes. She worked 3 jobs to raise Mike and me after our father died. Hotel maid, waitress, night school student. She had such dignity about her. Never complained, never asked for help. Anna's fingers traced the frame gently. What happened to her? Lucas's jaw tightened. Cancer. We didn't know. She hid it from us, kept working until she couldn't anymore. By then, he forced the words out. By then it was too late. If someone had noticed, if someone had helped. Oh, Lucas. The softness in her voice, the use of his first name, made him turn away. The board's meeting tomorrow morning, he said, changing the subject. They're not happy about your promotion. Because of Daniel. Because I broke protocol. Because I got personally involved. He laughed without humor. Because they think I'm letting emotions cloud my judgment. Are you? The question hung in the air between them. Lucas turned back to find Anna watching him with an intensity that made his carefully constructed walls tremble. Maybe, he admitted, but I'm starting to think that's not such a bad thing. Anna stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the faint scent of her shampoo. The twins ask about you, you know. Sophia says you look like a prince from her storybooks. Despite everything, Lucas felt his lips twitch. And Samuel? Samuel? Her expression softened. He drew a picture today, of all of us. He put you in it. The simple statement hit Lucas like a physical blow. He moved to the windows, needing space, needing to think. I should go check on them, Anna said quietly. But Lucas? She waited until he turned. Thank you. Not just for handling Daniel, but for seeing us. Really seeing us. After she left, Lucas stood at the windows for a long time, watching the city lights blur through eyes that burned suspiciously. Tomorrow, he'd face the board. Tomorrow, he'd deal with whatever threats Daniel might pose. Tomorrow, he'd put his walls back up and be the CEO everyone expected. But tonight, in the quiet of his office, he allowed himself to feel everything he'd been suppressing. The fierce need to protect Anna and her children, the echoes of his own past, and the terrifying realization that his carefully ordered world would never be the same. His phone buzzed. A message from Michael. Davidson's gathered quite a crowd for tomorrow. Sure you don't want to reconsider? Lucas thought of Samuel's drawing, of Anna's quiet strength, of Sophia's storybook princes. His fingers moved across the screen. Some things are worth fighting for. He pressed send, then reached for his laptop. He had a board meeting to prepare for, and this time, he wasn't just fighting for his company's future. He was fighting for a family that had somehow, in the space of 2 days, become impossibly important to him. And Lucas Alexander Martin never lost a fight that mattered. At precisely 8:45 a.m., Lucas stood in the executive bathroom, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. The man in the mirror looked exactly like the CEO everyone expected. Immaculate navy suit, perfect posture, not a hair out of place. But something had changed behind his eyes. The ice was cracking. His phone buzzed. A photo from Anna, Sophia and Samuel in their new daycare uniforms, beaming at the camera. Sophia had her hands on her hips in her signature pose, while Samuel clutched his elephant, half hiding behind his sister. The caption read, "First day. They're nervous but excited. Thank you for this opportunity." Lucas found himself smiling, an increasingly common occurrence lately. Before he could respond, another message appeared. Good luck with the board, not that you need it. He slipped the phone into his pocket, squaring his shoulders. She was right. He didn't need luck. He had something better. Certainty. The boardroom fell silent as he entered. 12 pairs of eyes watched him take his place at the head of the mahogany table. Robert Davidson, silver-haired and shark-smiled, sat directly opposite him. Michael, to Lucas's right, gave an almost imperceptible nod. Gentlemen, Lucas began, his voice carrying the authority that had built empires. I understand there are concerns about recent personnel decisions. Concerns? Davidson's smile didn't reach his eyes. That's putting it mildly, Lucas. You've bypassed every HR protocol we have, given away a luxury suite, promoted a housekeeper with no corporate experience, and now I hear you personally intervened in a custody matter? Lucas kept his expression neutral, though his fingers itched to adjust his cufflinks. Ms. Silva is exceptionally qualified for her new position. Her service record. This isn't about qualifications, Davidson cut in. It's about judgment. Your judgment, specifically. He leaned forward. We've all heard the rumors. A pretty young mother with twins. It's a touching story. But this company isn't a charity, and you're not a knight in shining armor. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Even Michael tensed beside him. Careful, Robert. Lucas's voice was soft, dangerous. You're approaching a line. Am I? Davidson smiled wider. Or have you already crossed it? Your mother would be. Don't. Lucas stood slowly, his chair scraping back. "Don't you dare speak of my mother." The boardroom held its breath. Lucas could feel the old pain rising, threatening to crack his composure. But then he thought of Anna's quiet dignity, of Samuel's drawing, of Sophia's storybook princes. And suddenly, he knew exactly what to say. "Let me tell you what this company is," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "We're not just balance sheets and profit margins. We're the single mother working 3 jobs to put herself through school. We're the night manager, who stays late to help a family in crisis. We're the dreams and determination of every employee who walks through our doors." He moved around the table, commanding attention with each step. "Ms. Silva isn't a charity case. She's exactly the kind of talent we should be developing. Someone who understands our industry from the ground up. Someone who demonstrates the values we claim to represent." "Values don't pay dividends," Davidson scoffed. "No?" Lucas pulled out his tablet, sliding it across the table. "Our employee retention rate has cost us millions in training and recruitment. Ms. Silva's new program could change that. But you'd know that if you'd bothered to read the proposal instead of jumping to conclusions." The board members leaned forward, studying the numbers. Lucas continued, his voice gaining strength. "You want to talk about judgment? Let's talk about the casino project I blocked. The one that would have destroyed our family-friendly brand. Or the merger I prevented that would have gutted our service standards. This company thrives because we understand that people matter. All people." He returned to his seat, adjusting his cufflinks with deliberate precision. "Now, if anyone else wants to question my personal life or bring my mother into this, I suggest you review your own employment contract first. Otherwise, shall we discuss actual business?" The silence stretched for 1 heartbeat, 2. Then Michael cleared his throat. "I move to formally approve all recent personnel decisions and give the CEO full discretion in the corporate training initiative." Hands raised around the table one by one. Even Davidson, though his smile had turned to a grimace, lifted his fingers in grudging assent. "Motion carried," Michael announced, not quite hiding his satisfaction. "Now, about the Miami expansion." The rest of the meeting passed in a blur of reports and projections. Lucas participated with his usual precision, but part of him was already elsewhere. As soon as they adjourned, he pulled out his phone, finding another message from Anna. "Samuel asked his teacher if he could draw another picture. This one's just of you. He gave you a crown." Something warm expanded in Lucas's chest. His fingers moved across the screen. "How are they settling in?" The response came quickly. "Sophia's already organizing the other children into a pretend hotel." Samuel's quieter, but he smiled at lunch. "Emily says I'm glowing. I told her it's just relief." Lucas found himself walking toward the elevator, drawn by an impulse he didn't try to fight. The 3rd-floor daycare center was state-of-the-art, all bright colors and happy sounds. Through the observation window he saw them. Sophia directing what appeared to be a very serious tea party, Samuel carefully arranging blocks in perfect lines. They're remarkable children. He turned to find Anna beside him, dressed professionally in a simple blue dress, her blonde hair neatly styled. The corporate training uniform suited her, but it was the confidence in her stance that truly transformed her. "How was the board meeting?" she asked softly. Unanimous approval. He watched as Samuel looked up, spotted them, and gave a shy wave. Though Davidson made his objections clear. "Because of me?" Her hand went to her necklace. "Because of me." Lucas turned to face her. "Because I broke pattern, because I let myself care." "And do you regret it?" The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Through the window, Sophia had noticed them too. She beamed, waving with her whole body, then promptly put her hands on her hips and declared something to her captive audience. "No," Lucas said, simply. "I don't regret a thing." Anna's smile was like sunrise. "Good, because Sophia's already planning to make you attend her next tea party. Apparently princes are required guests." Lucas felt laughter bubble up, surprising them both. "Well, we can't disappoint the management." Mr. Martin? A young teacher approached nervously. Samuel's been asking to give you something. Would you like to come in? Both of you? Lucas glanced at Anna, who nodded encouragement. Together they entered the cheerful room where Samuel immediately ran to his cubby, pulling out a carefully folded paper. The drawing was simple, a tall figure in a suit, wearing what was indeed a crown, but it was the smile on the figure's face that made Lucas's throat tight. Do you like it? Samuel asked quietly, clutching his elephant. Lucas knelt down to the boy's level, something he'd never done in a suit before. It's perfect, he said softly. Thank you. Samuel's answering smile was like watching the sun break through clouds. Across the room, Sophia was already making her way over, no doubt to issue her royal tea party command in person. And Lucas Alexander Martin, the man who had built his life on control and distance, found himself exactly where he needed to be, surrounded by children's laughter, holding a crayon drawing of himself wearing a crown, watching Anna's eyes sparkle with something that looked remarkably like happiness. The ice wasn't just cracking anymore, it was melting completely. 2 weeks had passed since the board meeting, and Anna's world had transformed in ways she'd never imagined possible. Her new office in the corporate training department overlooked Central Park. The twins were thriving in daycare, and for the first time in years, she felt truly hopeful about the future. But hope, she'd learned, was often followed by storms. The email arrived on a sunny Wednesday morning, just as she was reviewing training protocols. Her phone buzzed simultaneously, Emily calling. Tell me you've seen the article, Emily said without preamble. Anna's stomach dropped as she opened the link. The headline screamed across her screen. Martin Enterprises CEO in scandal. Affair with employee leads to questionable promotion. Oh God. Anna's hand went to her necklace, fingers trembling. The article was brutal, filled with anonymous sources painting her as a manipulative social climber, and Lucas as a man compromised by desire. Daniel's name appeared prominently, presenting him as a concerned father fighting for his children against corporate power. It's in every major business blog, Emily said gently. Davidson's company owns half of them. The twins are safe in daycare. I already checked. Emily's voice hardened. Girl, don't you dare let them win. You earned this position. Anna stared at her computer screen where more emails were arriving by the second. HR requesting an urgent meeting. Board members expressing concerns. And there, at the top, a message from Lucas with a single line. My office, now. Her heels clicked against marble as she rode the elevator to the executive floor. Each step felt like moving through water, her mind racing. Would she lose everything? Would the twins have to leave their new school? Would Lucas regret? The thought cut off as she entered his office. Lucas stood at the windows, his back rigid, with tension. He turned as she entered, and the look on his face made her pause. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Don't. His voice was rough. Don't apologize for him. He crossed to his desk, loosening his tie slightly. My legal team is already handling it. The article will be retracted by noon. But the damage can be managed. He met her eyes. Unless, do you want to leave? I can arrange a transfer to any of our properties, full relocation package, same position. No. The force of her response surprised them both. Anna took a deep breath. No, I won't run, not again, not from him. Something flickered in Lucas's eyes. Pride, maybe. Or something deeper. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the faint shadows under his eyes, smell his expensive cologne. Davidson's behind this, he said quietly. He and Daniel are working together. They want me to back down to prove I've lost my edge. His fingers twitched toward his cufflinks but stopped halfway. They don't understand what they're dealing with. What are we dealing with? Anna asked, her voice barely a whisper. Before Lucas could respond, his phone buzzed. The color drained from his face as he read the message. Security breach at the daycare. Daniel. Anna was running before he finished the sentence, Lucas right behind her. The elevator seemed to crawl between floors. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. They burst onto the third floor to find Emily standing like a warrior queen before the daycare entrance, her arms crossed, her expression fierce. "He tried," she said as they approached. "Security stopped him, but he had papers, custody documents. He's demanding—" "Mama!" Sophia's voice cut through everything. She ran from the daycare door, launching herself into Anna's arms. Samuel followed more slowly, clutching his elephant, his blue eyes wide with fear. Lucas knelt down as Samuel approached, opening his arms without hesitation. The boy practically fell into them, burying his face in Lucas's expensive suit. "Is the bad man coming back?" Sophia asked, her usual bravado cracking slightly. "No, Princess." Lucas's voice carried absolute certainty as he stood, still holding Samuel. "No one's gonna hurt you. Any of you." Anna felt tears threatening. The sight of Lucas holding her son, of Sophia's fierce little face pressed against her neck, of Emily, standing guard like an avenging angel, it was too much. "Ms. Silva." Richard, the night manager, appeared with a security team. "Mr. Richardson has been removed from the property, but he left this." He held out an envelope. Lucas shifted Samuel to one arm, the boy refusing to let go, and took the envelope with his free hand. "Legal papers. He's filing for full custody." The world seemed to tilt. Anna's knees weakened, but Emily was there instantly, supporting her. "My office," Lucas said, his voice carrying the authority that had built empires. "All of us. Now." The ride-up was silent except for Sophia's occasional sniffles and Samuel's quiet breathing. The twins refused to let go of their respective protectors, and Anna found herself studying Lucas's profile as he whispered soft reassurances to her son. In his office, Emily took charge of settling the twins with tablets and snacks while Lucas made calls. Anna stood at the windows watching the city below, feeling surprisingly calm despite everything. "It's a ploy," Lucas said finally, ending his last call. "Davidson's backing him. They think this will force my resignation, prove I'm compromised." He moved to stand beside her. "They didn't expect us to fight back." "Us?" Anna turned to face him. "You're not alone anymore." His voice softened as he glanced at the twins. Sophia was explaining something very seriously to Emily, her hands on her hips while Samuel had fallen asleep clutching both his elephant and Lucas's discarded suit jacket. "None of you are." "Lucas." She touched his arm gently. "This could ruin everything you've built, your reputation, the company. Some things matter more." He covered her hand with his, and Anna felt electricity race up her arm. "I told the board this company was about people, about values. I meant it. The press will say, let them." His blue eyes held hers. "Anna, Mr. Martin." His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Davidson's here with his lawyers and, sir, they have a film crew from Channel 7 with them." Lucas's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Sophia's voice piped up. "Are they trying to hurt Mama?" Everyone turned to find the little girl standing beside them, her face set in determination that matched Lucas's own expression. "No, Princess," Lucas said firmly. "They're trying to hurt all of us, but they don't understand something very important." "What?" Sophia asked, slipping her small hand into his free one. Lucas looked at their joined hands, then at Anna, then at Samuel sleeping peacefully nearby. Something shifted in his expression, the last of his walls crumbling. "They don't understand," he said softly, "that some fights are worth losing everything for." Anna felt tears spill down her cheeks as Lucas squeezed both their hands. Behind them, Emily was unsuccessfully trying to hide her own tears. "So," Lucas said, straightening to his full height while still holding Sophia's hand, "shall we show them exactly what they're dealing with?" Sophia put her free hand on her hip. "Can I wear my princess crown?" For the first time that day, Lucas truly smiled. "Absolutely. After all," he glanced at Samuel's latest drawing on his desk, where he wore a crown of his own. It runs in the family. The word family hung in the air, full of promise and possibility. Anna looked at their joined hands, at her sleeping son, at Emily's proud smile, and felt something settle in her chest. Daniel and Davidson had no idea what they were up against, because they were fighting one man's power, but they were about to face something much stronger: a family's love. The Wellington's grand lobby had hosted countless dramas over the years, but none quite like this. Television cameras caught the afternoon light streaming through the massive windows as Robert Davidson stood with his legal team, Daniel Richardson at his side, both men radiating smug confidence. Hotel guests and employees gathered at the edges, drawn by the spectacle and the presence of news crews. The elevator doors opened. Lucas Alexander Martin stepped out first, every inch the powerful CEO in his perfectly tailored suit. But it was who followed that made the cameras flash frantically. Anna Silva, elegant in her corporate attire, holding Sophia's hand. The little girl wore a toy princess crown and an expression that matched Lucas's determination. Emily emerged next, carrying a sleepy Samuel who still clutched both his elephant and Lucas's suit jacket. Quite the family portrait, Davidson sneered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. Is this what Martin Enterprises has become? A personal dating service for its CEO? Lucas stopped several feet away, his voice carrying clearly through the hushed lobby. Is this what you've become, Robert? Hiding behind cameras and a man who abandoned his own children? Daniel stepped forward, all wounded dignity for the cameras. I never abandoned them. I was pushed away, denied my rights as a father. Rights. Anna's voice rang out, surprising everyone. She handed Sophia's hand to Emily and moved to stand beside Lucas. What rights? The right to walk away when I told you I was pregnant? The right to block my number when I was hospitalized with complications? The right to ignore every birthday, every Christmas, every moment your children needed you? The cameras swung toward Daniel, who faltered slightly. I made mistakes, but I'm here now. I want to make things right. No. Lucas's voice was soft but carried steel. You're here because Davidson offered you money, because you saw an opportunity to hurt people who are actually building something real. Davidson's smile slipped. The board won't stand for this spectacle. Your judgment is clearly compromised. My judgment. Lucas took a step forward and Davidson actually stepped back. Let's talk about judgment. Let's talk about how you've been secretly buying up media outlets to manipulate stock prices, about the offshore accounts where you've been hiding the key profits, about the evidence my team has gathered over the past 2 weeks. The color drained from Davidson's face. Behind him, his lawyers exchanged alarmed looks. You're bluffing, Davidson managed. Am I? Lucas smiled, adjusting his cufflinks with deliberate precision. Michael, would you join us? Michael Martin emerged from the crowd carrying a thick folder. All here, little brother, every transaction, every shell company, every bribe. The SEC will be very interested. You'd risk everything, Davidson sputtered. Your reputation, your company. For family? Lucas glanced at Anna, then at the twins. Without hesitation. Samuel chose that moment to lift his head from Emily's shoulder. Lucas? His small voice carried in the silence. Are the bad men going away? Something in Lucas's expression softened as he looked at the boy. Yes, buddy, they're going away. Actually, a new voice cut in, they're being arrested. Federal agents moved through the lobby, led by a sharp-faced woman who looked entirely unimpressed by the media circus. Robert Davidson, Daniel Richardson, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted extortion. As the agents read rights and applied handcuffs, Daniel made one last desperate play. Anna, please, they're my children. No. Anna's voice was firm as she reclaimed Sophia's hand. They're my children, and they already have all the family they need. The cameras followed Davidson and Daniel's exit, but Anna barely noticed. She was watching Lucas kneel down to Sophia's level, straightening her toy crown with gentle fingers. Very princess-like, he said seriously, making the little girl beam. Does this mean you'll stay? Sophia asked, putting her hands on her hips. For tea parties and stories and forever? Lucas glanced up at Anna, and the look in his eyes made her heart skip. If your mother agrees, he said softly. I'd like that very much. Mama? Sophia turned her hopeful face upward. Can Lucas stay? Anna felt tears threatening again, but these were different from the ones she'd shed in fear and worry. These were tears of possibility, of joy, of a future she'd stopped believing in. What do you think, Samuel? She asked her son, who was now squirming to be put down. Samuel walked to Lucas with quiet determination, still holding the suit jacket. Instead of speaking, he simply wrapped his arms around Lucas's neck, holding on tight. I think that's a yes, Emily said, not bothering to hide her own tears. The lobby had begun to clear, the drama over, but their little group remained. Anna watched as Lucas stood, lifting Samuel with him, the expensive suit jacket forgotten on the marble floor. Anna, he said softly, her name like a prayer on his lips. I know this isn't the most romantic moment, with federal agents and media crews and corporate chaos, but I need you to know. I know, she whispered, stepping closer. Sophia squeezed between them, wrapping her arms around both their legs. Do you? His free hand found hers. Because I've spent my whole life building walls, protecting myself from exactly this kind of emotion. And then you and these amazing children crashed into my suite and my life, and he broke off, emotion making his voice rough. And suddenly walls seemed pointless. Lucas Alexander Martin, Anna said, squeezing his hand. Are you trying to say you love us? His smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. I'm trying to say, I can't imagine my life without you. Any of you. Even the elephant. Samuel lifted his head at this, offering his beloved stuffed animal to Lucas with solemn ceremony. Oh, buddy. Lucas's voice cracked slightly. I don't need to hold him. He's part of our family, too. Our family. The words hung in the air, full of promise and possibility. What happens now? Emily asked softly, reminding them they weren't alone. Lucas looked around the lobby, his lobby in his hotel, in his city. But for the first time, the empire he'd built seemed secondary to the tiny hands holding his, to the woman looking at him with tears and joy in her green eyes, to the future unfolding before them. Now, he said, we build something new. Together. Sophia tugged on his pant leg. With tea parties? With all the tea parties you want, princess. And story time? Samuel asked quietly. Every night, Lucas promised. Anna touched her mother's necklace, a gesture that now felt less like anxiety and more like connection to all the love that had brought her to this moment. And what about the board? She asked. The press, the scandal? Lucas's blue eyes met hers with absolute certainty. Let them talk. Some things are worth any price. As if to prove his point, he leaned down and kissed her, right there in the lobby with Sophia cheering and Samuel giggling and Emily whistling in the background. And Anna Silva, who had spent so long just trying to survive, finally let herself believe in fairy tales again. Because sometimes it turns out princes don't just exist in storybooks. Sometimes they run international hotel chains and fall in love with housekeepers and their twins. And sometimes, just sometimes, happily ever after isn't just a dream. It's a choice you make together every single day. 6 months later, Lucas stood in his newly renovated penthouse adjusting his bow tie in the bedroom mirror. The space had been completely transformed. Gone were the stark minimalist furnishings replaced by a warm blend of luxury and family life. A toy princess crown sat on an antique side table. Samuel's elephant kept watch from the massive bed. Framed children's artwork hung alongside priceless abstracts. Need help with that? Anna's reflection appeared behind him, and Lucas's hands stilled. She wore a midnight blue evening gown that made her eyes sparkle like emeralds. Her mother's silver necklace gleaming at her throat. Maybe I just wanted you to come closer, he admitted, turning to face her. She smiled, reaching up to fix his tie. Smooth talker. Ready for your big speech? Tonight was the Wellington's annual charity gala. But this year was different. This year they were announcing the Martin Family Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping single parents in the hospitality industry advance their careers. Almost. He caught her hands in his. Just need my good luck charm. As if on cue, rapid footsteps approached their bedroom door, followed by Sophia's voice. Mama, Lucas, look at my dress. They turned to find Sophia, twirling in a miniature version of Anna's gown, her toy crown perfectly positioned in her blonde curls. Behind her, Samuel stood in his tiny tuxedo, bow tie slightly crooked trusty elephant wearing a matching bow tie of his own. Princess Sophia, Lucas said formally, kneeling to her level. You look absolutely royal. She put her hands on her hips, beaming. Really? Even better than the pictures of you and Mama in the magazines? The media coverage had been intense after Davidson's arrest, but not in the way their enemies had hoped. The story of the CEO and the housekeeper had captured public imagination. Their first official family photo, Lucas and Anna with the twins at a charity event, had gone viral, with people calling it a real-life fairy tale. Much better, Lucas assured her, straightening her crown. Though your brother might steal the show. Samuel shuffled forward, holding something behind his back. I made you something, he said quietly. Lucas sat on the floor, not caring about his designer tuxedo. What is it, buddy? Samuel revealed a slightly crumpled paper, another drawing. But this one was different from his usual artwork. This showed all of them together, standing in front of the Wellington. Above the hotel floated the words, My family, in careful child's handwriting. Oh, Samuel. Anna knelt beside them, tears threatening to ruin her makeup. Look, Sophia pointed proudly. He drew Lucas's office at the top where you had your first kiss. Sophia Grace, Anna laughed, but Lucas was staring at the drawing with suspiciously bright eyes. It's perfect, he managed, pulling Samuel into a hug. In fact, he glanced at Anna. Should we tell them now? Anna's eyes softened. I suppose it's as good a time as any. Tell us what? Sophia demanded, hands going to her hips. Lucas gathered both children onto his lap, not caring that Sophia's tulle skirt was crushing his boutonniere. How would you feel about making this family official? About me becoming your dad legally and forever? Samuel's eyes went wide. Really forever? Really forever, Anna confirmed, joining them on the floor, designer gowns and tuxedos forgotten. Lucas asked me to marry him last night. And you said yes? Sophia bounced with excitement. Like in my stories? Like in your stories, Anna smiled, showing them the elegant engagement ring. But better because it's real. Samuel touched the ring carefully, then looked at Lucas. Can I still keep my elephant? Buddy, Lucas said seriously, your elephant is family too. In fact, he reached into his tuxedo jacket, pulling out adoption papers. These say you'll be Sophia and Samuel Martin. The elephant should probably be a Martin too. Martin, Samuel repeated softly, testing the name. Like you. Like all of us, Anna said, her voice thick with emotion. A knock at the door interrupted their moment. Emily stood there, resplendent in a red gown, her curls styled elegantly. Hate to break up the love fest, but the guests are arriving and... She grinned. You might want to see the lobby. They made their way down in the private elevator, the twins buzzing with excitement about their new name. But when the doors opened, everyone fell silent. The Wellington's grand lobby had been transformed into a fairy tale. Thousands of twinkling lights created a starry effect. Elegant floral arrangements perfumed the air, and at the center of it all stood a massive ice sculpture, a perfect replica of Samuel's first drawing of Lucas wearing a crown. Michael's idea, Emily said softly. He said it was time to celebrate the real reason for Martin Enterprises' success. Family. Lucas felt Anna squeeze his hand as Sophia gasped in delight, and Samuel pressed closer to his leg. Ready? Anna asked quietly. Lucas looked at his soon-to-be wife, at their beautiful children, at the empire that had somehow become so much more than business. "Actually," he said, adjusting his cufflinks one last time, "I need to change my speech." "What?" "Lucas, there are 400 people waiting. Trust me." He kissed her quickly, then scooped up Samuel while Sophia claimed her mother's hand. Some things are more important than prepared remarks. 20 minutes later, Lucas stood at the podium, his family beside him, facing the city's elite and national media. But for once, he didn't see power players and press. He saw people. People with families, with dreams, with stories of their own. "A year ago," he began, his voice carrying through the hushed crowd, "I thought I knew what success looked like. I had built an empire of brick and steel, of profit margins and market shares. I thought that was enough." He glanced at Anna, who smiled encouragement. "Then one night, I found 2 sleeping children in my hotel suite. And their mother," his voice roughened slightly, "their mother taught me that true success isn't measured in dollars or headlines. It's measured in moments, in tea parties and crayon drawings, in the courage to tear down walls, in the strength to build something new." Sophia tugged his sleeve, and without hesitation Lucas lifted her up, letting her wave to the crowd like the princess she was. The audience melted, cameras flashing. The Martin Family Foundation isn't just about helping single parents advance their careers. It's about recognizing that every person who walks through our doors, guest or employee, has a story, has value, has dreams worth fighting for. Samuel pressed closer to Anna, who lifted him up too. Lucas looked at them, his family, his heart, his future, and felt the last of his old self fall away. "Someone once told me that everything has a price," he continued, meeting Anna's tear-bright eyes. "They were wrong. Some things are priceless. Some things change you forever. Some things make you family," Sophia announced into the microphone, making the crowd laugh and applaud. "Exactly, princess." Lucas kissed her cheek, then Samuel's, then finally Anna's. "So yes, this foundation will provide scholarships and advancement opportunities. But more importantly, it will remind us that in this company, in this family, everyone matters. Everyone belongs. Everyone deserves their own happily ever after." The applause was thunderous, but Lucas barely heard it. He was too busy watching Samuel offer his elephant to a surprised Michael, seeing Sophia explain her crown to an amused group of board members, feeling Anna's hand warm in his. Later that night, after the twins were asleep in their new rooms and the gala had wound down, Lucas and Anna stood on their penthouse balcony. The city sparkled below them, but the real magic was in the way she fit perfectly in his arms. "Thank you," he said softly into her hair. "For what?" "For crashing into my suite that night, for taking a chance on the Ice King, for—" He turned, her to face him, "for making me believe in fairy tales." Anna reached up, touching his face gently. "Thank you for being worth believing in." Inside, Sophia's crown glinted in the moonlight. Samuel's elephant kept watch from his new bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, new moments to treasure. But for now, Lucas Alexander Martin held his world in his arms and knew that every wall he'd torn down, every risk he'd taken had led him exactly where he was meant to be. Not just to success, not just to love, but to family. And that was the greatest happily ever after of all. The Wellington's presidential suite buzzed with activity as the morning sun streamed through its panoramic windows. Sophia, now 7, stood before a full-length mirror in a lavender junior bridesmaid dress, practicing her flower-tossing technique with characteristic determination. "Like this, Charlotte?" she asked, demonstrating for her 2-year-old sister, who sat on Emily's lap wearing a matching dress. The toddler clapped her tiny hands, her dark curls bouncing, blue eyes just like Lucas's, sparkling with delight. "Perfect, princess," Emily assured her, adjusting Charlotte's bow. After her promotion to hotel operations director, Emily had somehow become even more integral to the family's life, especially after Charlotte's birth. In the adjacent room, Anna sat at her vanity, while her 7 months pregnant belly made it slightly challenging to reach the mirror. Samuel, also 7 now, carefully handed her the something borrowed, her mother's silver necklace, which he'd been entrusted to guard until this moment. "You look beautiful, Mama," he said softly, still the gentle soul he'd always been, though now more confident. His elephant, somewhat worn but sporting a tiny bow tie, sat faithfully nearby. "Thank you, sweetheart." Anna touched the necklace, remembering all the times she'd held it for comfort during harder days. Now it was simply a connection to love, past and present. A knock at the door revealed Michael, grinning broadly. "The groom's going crazy downstairs. Something about wanting to marry you all over again." Anna laughed, her hand resting on her belly where their 4th child kicked enthusiastically. "Tell Lucas that renewing our vows was his romantic idea. He can wait 5 more minutes." The past 5 years had transformed their lives in ways none of them could have imagined. The Martin Family Foundation had helped hundreds of single parents advance their careers. Anna now served as its executive director while also helping Lucas run the hotel chain's corporate training program. Their love story had inspired changes throughout the industry, with other companies adopting similar initiatives. Davidson had served 2 years in prison before being released, a broken man. Daniel had fled to Europe, never attempting to contact the twins again. Lucas had formally adopted Sophia and Samuel 3 days after their wedding, and the children had flourished under his devoted fatherhood. "Ready?" Emily asked, lifting Charlotte while Sophia practiced her walk one last time. Anna stood, smoothing her elegant white maternity gown, much simpler than her original wedding dress but perfect for renewing their vows on their 5th anniversary. "Samuel," she called softly, "would you do the honor of walking your old mom down the aisle again?" Her son straightened his tie, a habit unconsciously copied from Lucas, and offered his arm with grave ceremony. At 7, he was already showing signs of his adoptive father's business acumen, though tempered by a gentle creativity all his own. The Wellington's rooftop garden had been transformed into an intimate paradise. As Anna walked toward Lucas, she saw their life together reflected in the faces around them. Emily wiping away tears while bouncing Charlotte, Michael standing proud beside his brother, their extended hotel family filling the seats, Sophia leading the procession with perfect, princess poise, Samuel escorting her with quiet dignity, and Lucas, her ice king turned warm-hearted family man, watching her approach with the same awe he'd shown 5 years ago, and every day since. "Hi," she whispered when she reached him. "Hi yourself," he murmured back, adjusting his cufflinks, in that familiar nervous gesture she'd grown to love. "Still sure about forever?" Anna looked at their assembled family, Sophia demonstrating to Charlotte how to wave regally, Samuel carefully straightening his elephant's bow tie, their unborn daughter doing somersaults beneath her heart, then back at Lucas, whose walls had long since melted into bridges. "More sure than ever," she said. Above them, the New York sky stretched endlessly blue. Below, the Wellington stood proud, the place where their story began. And all around them, love bloomed like the rooftop roses, wild and beautiful and ever-growing. Because true love, as their story proved, isn't just about fairy tale beginnings. It's about choosing each other every day after. It's about building something stronger than walls. It's about creating your own happily ever after, one precious moment at a time. And for the Martin family, those moments were just beginning. The end. Think about it. Sometimes the greatest blessings in our lives come disguised as problems. Lucas could have called security and missed the chance to meet true love and start a family, but he chose to open his heart, even if it meant risking everything he had built. Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.